1993, Boy Meets World debuted, telling the story of Cory Matthews as he navigated the troubled waters of childhood into adulthood. Though never a breakout hit, it was a fixture of Friday nights, running for 7 seasons, following Cory and his friends from middle school to college. After the show ended, it surprisingly got even more popular through syndication, with its blend of a classic coming-of-age story and nostalgia for a time when the world seemed like a much kinder place. To tell the story of Boy Meets World, though, we need to start with the story of TGIF, the programming block on ABC where Boy Meets World debuted. ABC had long been a home for comedy on Friday nights, from The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet to The Brady Bunch. In the late 1980s, ABC stood in contrast to rival networks NBC and CBS, which had more dramatic programming on the evening, so they came up with a promotional hook that would distinguish them from their rival networks, emphasizing the family-friendly nature of their comedy lineup. Bob Iger, president of ABC Entertainment at the time, explained, "A lot of families weren't watching TV together as much as when I was growing up, but I thought, if we could program shows where parents and kids could watch together, we'd be better off from a ratings perspective." It would be named TGIF, which stood for Thank Goodness It's Funny. And more than just a name, what would connect these shows would be a series of promotional spots where the cast from each respective program would serve as hosts for the night, as if they were sitting alongside the audience in their home watching the shows with them. TGIF debuted in 1989, and its first lineup of shows included Full House, Family Matters, Perfect Strangers, and Just the 10 of Us. TGIF was a massive hit, particularly with younger audiences, and part of what made it so successful is that once a family sat down to watch TGIF, they usually stuck around for the whole night. TGIF's lineup would change over the years. Its earlier years would include shows such as Step by Step and Dinosaurs, and its later years would see it add Hanging with Mr. Cooper, Sister Sister, and Sabrina the Teenage Witch. All of these shows had a distinct family-friendly feel. They also featured a number of fun crossovers. Family Matters, for instance, was already a spin-off of Perfect Strangers, so it was no surprise to see those characters cross over. But we would also see Steve Urkel show up on Full House and Step by Step, and Michelle from Full House would pop up on Hanging with Mr. Cooper. While all of these shows deserve their place in discussions about TGIF, there is one show that embodied the spirit of TGIF, and that show is Boy Meets World. Although Boy Meets World was not the breakout hit of this night, it was the only long-running show that debuted and ended as part of the TGIF Friday night lineup. Boy Meets World was destined to be a TGIF show before it was even an idea. Series creator Michael Jacobs had been working on Dinosaurs for ABC's TGIF before it was moved to Wednesday nights. A move, by the way, Jacobs considers the reason that particular series only ran for 4 seasons. Dinosaurs' big numbers with families on Friday nights motivated Disney to task Jacobs with developing a show for the 12 to 14-year-old demographic. He thought of other family shows such as Family Ties and Growing Pains, which focused on the oldest child of a family. Jacobs had another idea, though. In an interview, he said, "What if we did a different structure? What if we took a middle child and instead of focusing on the first date aspect of the older child, he was looking at it as a betrayal?" Jacobs contacted ABC to find out who they had under contract, and the one kid they had available was Ben Savage, who at the time was only thought of as the younger brother of Fred Savage, current star of the TV series The Wonder Years. Jacobs and Savage immediately hit it off, and the series quickly took shape. Jacobs describes the series at its beginning. "What if there's a kid who is an everyman who loses his touchstone, his older brother, and he's lost and confused in the world?" With the premise established, Jacobs teamed with veteran writer April Kelly to pen the first episode of the series, and it was soon time to cast the show. Naturally, Ben Savage would play the lead, Cory Matthews, the middle child of the Matthews family. Cory starts the show in 6th grade. He's an energetic kid who is less than committed to his schoolwork, and happily sits as the every kid everyone watching was supposed to identify with as he started taking his first steps into the big world around him.
Apparently, he'd rather listen to the baseball game on the radio than try to understand the emotional content of Romeo and Juliet.
Mom, I'm a kid. I don't understand the emotional content of Full House.
William Daniels played George Feeney, or more commonly, Mr. Feeney, and he was based on a drama teacher Michael Jacobs had had in high school. Although Daniels expressed reluctance when he was offered the role, he accepted once he learned that, in spite of his name, the character of Mr. Feeney would not be mocking teachers, but rather demonstrating the profound impact they have on young minds. Not only Cory's teacher, Mr. Feeney lived next door to the Matthews home, meaning that no matter where Cory went, he could never escape his watchful eye or sage advice.
You know, you're not doing your body any favors loading up on junk like that.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Feeney. And please enjoy that high-vitamin astronaut drink you're sucking down.
There's no gravity in space, Mr. Matthews. Therefore, astronauts suck up. Learn from them.
Cory's older brother, Eric, was played by Will Friedle. Although Friedel wasn't the first choice for the role, after the pilot was shot, the role was recast and given to Friedel instead. Friedel was given the role because he was taller than the first actor, and they didn't want Corey growing up to be taller than his older brother. Eric begins the series as the date-obsessed older brother, though over the years he would become one of the goofier members of the cast.
Like I don't have anything else in my mind but girls. Look, I got a lot of other things in my mind besides girls. A lot of other things. There's like, girl, right there, right there.
Ryder Strong was cast to play Corey's best friend, Sean Hunter. According to Michael Jacobs, Strong was the first and only boy he considered for the role. Sean is the rebellious best friend with a troubled home life, in stark contrast to the more wholesome Matthews household.
Stacy says you should have watched it 45 minutes ago. Ah! Stacy says you shouldn't have left it in so long. Stacy says, why didn't you two idiots read the label? Oh, thanks, Stace.
Lee Norris played class nerd Minkus, a foil and sometimes friend for Corey and Sean. Minkus would only be around in the first season, though he would have a memorable cameo later in the series.
You are gonna live in the lap of luxury, because I am a provider, babe.
Lily Nixay played Morgan, Corey's younger sister. The Morgan-type character was a staple of the family sitcom, being the adorable little kid who would come in to deliver a few cute one-liners.
Hey, go to the game with my sister and her doll. Great. Maybe during the 7th inning stretch, I can run through the stadium in my old Spider-Man underwear. Well, you don't have to dress up for me.
Betsy Randall played Amy, Corey's mother. Randall at the time had appeared on a handful of other sitcoms, most notably with a recurring role in Home Improvement. Amy would provide guidance to all of her kids throughout the series' run.
Let's see, when you have your 20th high school reunion, I'll be 44.
Mom, how can that be possible? You're already...
It's possible. It's not only possible, it's the way it's going to be.
William Russ played Corey's father, Alan. Much like the role of Eric, Alan was also recast after a test pilot, and much like Amy, Alan would provide words of wisdom to his children, often being highlighted as the male role model for young Corey.
Remember before the children? Before we were married? Before we knew each other? Remember how happy we were?
Although she wasn't a part of the original principal cast, it would be impossible not to mention the season 1 recurring character Topanga Lawrence, played by Danielle Fishel. Taking her name from a canyon in California that Michael Jacobs happened upon while on a drive, Topanga is a free spirit who is in stark contrast to Corey and Sean. She would be the love interest for Corey when she joined the principal cast in season 2.
Topanga's triple teamed at the timeline. She breaks the trap, heads to the top of the key, and leaps toward the basket, doing a spiraling tomahawk 360. Slam dunk!
A number of other characters would be introduced throughout the show's run, but for season 1, these were the characters Corey would be meeting the world alongside. On September 24th, 1993, Boy Meets World debuted with its pilot episode, creatively titled Pilot. This episode's plot used the very example Michael Jacobs referenced when talking about his idea for the series, with Corey feeling betrayed when Eric takes a date to a baseball game instead of his younger brother.
But Eric, going to the Phillies game's like our special thing.
Corey, I'm trying to get a special thing going with Heather.
Corey's feeling of betrayal manifests into a skepticism towards love in general, and in a fitting lesson, his class happens to be learning about Romeo and Juliet. When he accidentally sees Mr. Feeney was stood up for a date, Corey throws that in his teacher's face as part of his stand against love.
Because this love stuff has turned my whole family against me. And you're teaching us how it's worth killing yourself for, when I know you don't really believe that, do you?
Feeney gives us the first of many speeches where he tries to impart some wisdom to Corey.
At one time, a man and a woman realized that they loved each other and pursued the unlimited potential of what may come from that love. And here you are.
When Eric reveals his date was a failure, Corey applies the lesson he learned from Mr. Feeney and encourages his older brother not to give up on love.
Call her.
Who?
Who? Heather, my nemesis! Call her!
Why?
Because they're sitting there drooling and pathetic, and I know somewhere inside's my cool brother.
Corey's understanding of the world around him is expanding, and the first lesson in the pilot is about the power of love. In other shows, this would be shown by Corey going on a date, but in this case, it's Corey seeing his brother go on a date and getting a glimpse of Mr. Feeney having a romantic tryst, even if the salad dinner was actually going to be with his sister. Rather than experience the world directly, Corey is in the enviable position of getting a lesson about the world before diving into it. This is part of the reason Mr. Feeney has such a big role in the series. Mr. Feeney is teaching these kids lessons about how the world works before they step into it themselves, much like the kids who would be watching this series at home would be learning lessons from seeing Corey learn them on TV. The pilot episode has a heavy emphasis on Corey's home life, but as the series progressed, the focus would switch more to school and his friends. The series was still a few episodes from stepping on that path, but we could see how the theme of learning about the world was still a core of its identity. The original script for the pilot didn't impress William Daniels. Speaking in an interview with People.com, Daniels explained, "Michael and I are very close. He likes to tell the story that we had one read-through of the rehearsal and I went to his office and I quit. And he said, 'Bill, that was just a read-through.' I said, 'Yeah, but,' he said, 'Listen to me. I'm going to rework this tonight and you tell me tomorrow. If you want to quit, okay, but wait until I revise it.' So the next day, the whole thing, it was different. He rewrote the damn thing. So I stayed." That adaptability, along with a solid premise, gave Boy Meets World a flexibility that allowed it to change over the years to adapt its theme to new dynamics. And a few of those new dynamics were introduced very quickly in Season 1 with the key episode, Corey's Alternative Friends. In this episode, we're introduced to Topanga.
Give me your hand. Why? I want to see if our energies converge. He's vibrationally acceptable.
Whereas Sean is Corey's partner in crime as the average back row slacker, Topanga is completely unlike Corey. She's willing to stand out when Corey would rather blend in.
People make fun of you, Topanga. So? I couldn't take it. I just want to blend in. Well, you're sure good at it. You look like all the other plain-wrapped kids at school. Except for your red hat. Hey, I got that on Cat Night. I had to wait an hour in line. Well, if it's important to you, then it's beautiful.
After a hairstyling accident, all part of an attempt by Corey to blend in with the other kids, he learns the importance of being true to one's inner self. And he also learns the value of a social conscience when he helps Topanga and her friends create a blockade to keep the school librarian from being replaced. Corey also finds out that there might be more to him and Topanga than a passing friendship.
Sometimes the reluctant warrior is the bravest warrior. You're not gonna, kiss me now, are you? Would it be your first kiss? Hey, don't come near me. Because it would be interesting if all your life you remembered that your first kiss happened when you thought you looked weird. I would have to feel I really knew the person. And that I liked him. Good. Good.
Although it would be some time before we saw how this romance would play out, it was here we first got a glimpse of this key relationship, the Corey and Topanga romance. And while the kiss at the end is probably most remembered by audiences, the small moment they share at the end of the episode was also sweet. What makes this relationship interesting is how the power dynamics are inverted. It might be because of their age, or Topanga just generally having a strong will, but it is at odds with the more traditional stories where the boy makes the first move. And the broader lesson for Corey here is how someone can enter his life and turn it completely upside down. The show may be titled Boy Meets World, but sometimes it's the world that's meeting the boy. And while Corey can't control someone such as Topanga, he can control his reaction to her, and use this chance to learn more about himself in the process. The Topanga character wasn't intended to be a major part of the series, but would be written into a number of episodes for the first season. One of the producers, Jeff Manel, explains. When their hands touch, there's a spark. They had chemistry, the two kids, the actors, so we just kept writing storylines, and I think it progressed as a natural thing. The episode shifted Boy Meets World more towards school life for Corey and his friends, which is only natural as that this is the setting where change happens in a young person's life, a safe staging area for the big changes of the real world. Another key change in this episode was the role of Sean. In the first few episodes of the series, we see Corey and Sean with a rotating third friend. None of these third kids ever quite worked out, and though a third friend was written for Corey's alternative friends, the actor who was supposed to play him was fired, and all of his lines were given to Sean. This created space for what would be another of the show's most important relationships, the Corey and Sean friendship. There were still a few rough edges this early in the series. Sean, for instance, makes reference to a sister we will never hear about again, apparently an artifact from the lines of the third kid in the episode's original script. We also get a sense of Sean having a similar middle-class life to Corey, only he's a bit taller with better hair. Over time, we would learn a lot more about Sean and his unique circumstances, but this episode was about establishing the close friendship that these two have. There were a few key episodes in Season 1 that would establish who Sean was as a character. In Santa's Little Helper, we find out that Sean's father has lost his job.
Sean's dad got laid off.
Sean's dad lost his job?
Yeah, I guess he was just too embarrassed to tell you.
In addition to the financial strain Sean faces at home, we also find out that Sean has a tendency to be a bit more rebellious than Corey in the episode titled The Fugitive, where he blows up a mailbox.
You blew up a United States mailbox?
Well, it's still standing. Although the sides did puff out like a fat guy burping. All the stuff inside got torched, though. You should have seen the flames. And the freaked out look on people's faces.
Why am I never around when the great stuff happens?
Both of these episodes would establish important parts of the Corey and Sean friendship. They raise questions for Corey on how to best stand by his friend when he needs support because of his difficult life, and how best to steer him on the right path when something goes wrong.
You think he's a criminal?
I think he has rough edges. I think he's at a point in his life where he can go one of two ways.
Back on my side of the line, or gone forever.
The importance of this friendship reveals that lessons about how to navigate the world aren't just imparted to kids from wise adults, such as Mr. Feeney, but also learned from other kids, such as Corey being a positive influence to Sean, and in some ways, Sean serving as a lesson on what type of behavior to avoid. As this series is focusing on that journey to adulthood, it's important to ask how it plots that route out for its characters, and with something as important as raising the next generation of adults, in its first season, Boy Meets World plays it safe, and it takes certain assumptions for granted. The Matthews family lives in a suburban Philadelphia neighborhood. The kids have their basic needs met, their school is well equipped, and they embody typical American TV sitcom values. Their major influences in life are their friends, family, and teachers. And those influences are all within a greater context of an idealized world for those kids to grow in without facing any traumatic hardships, at least in the first season. In the episode Model Family, it opens with a clip from the 1950s sitcom Leave It to Beaver.
How do you feel Ward and June handled their family problem?
They were too perfect.
To TV.
I agree with you, Mr. Matthews.
That's not like you.
In fact, you brought me to today's assignment.
That's like you.
This episode offers the kids a chance to roleplay the parts of a model family. The message of the episode is that family lives are complicated and not the tidy package you see on TV. Only it doesn't really work, as the Matthews family, for all its modern faults, is still ideal. The parents are happily married, there's no sign of financial strain, and they generally all have happy, positive lives. This is the comfy, white, middle-class family that the America of the 90s treated pretty well, at least compared to other families. Leave It to Beaver and the first season of Boy Meets World are both operating in the same kind of world, one where certain norms keep the Cleavers and the Matthews from facing financial ruin or other traumas.
Beaver's dad wasn't real. Real fathers have to adapt. Real fathers don't have a script like Beaver's father did.
I guess it's easy to sound smart when you got the best writers in Hollywood writing everything you say.
I wouldn't know.
While the writing may have changed, the premise is still the same, asking the question of how children become adults in the modern American world. In its first season, the show does very little to question the modern American world, instead taking its assumption of a comfortable middle-class suburbia for granted. As an example, in the episode Risky Business, Corey and Sean are tasked with starting a business and instead bet on a horse race.
5:40 to show.
Ah!
What?
We won!
How much?
This times this.
99 bucks! Ah!
Corey and Sean learn the positive impact of risks, though the lesson is turned on its head when Corey risks leaving Morgan at home alone and she breaks a window. And they learn an important lesson about taking risks.
The greater the risk, the greater the potential profit. Just like you taught us, Mr. Feeney.
Yes, but sometimes the glitter of the profit makes one lose sight of the risk.
And you should never gamble anything that you can't afford to lose.
This episode reinforces the American cliche of being a self-starter, with Corey and Sean's business strategy literally being a gamble. And the reason it isn't necessarily a bad thing is because it was an amount of money they could afford to lose. The irreplaceable Morgan, on the other hand, was a very bad thing to risk. This raises an interesting question, though. What about people who can't afford to take risks? This lesson at a larger scale would mean more than gambling on a horse. It would mean gambling on yourself and risking personal finance chasing business success. After all, that was the lesson for the kids, how they would turn a small investment into a thriving business. But anyone without the resources to start a business doesn't really have access to this kind of risk. Or rather, even if they have those resources, they may not be able to afford to lose them at all. It reveals this lesson, which seems universal, to rather be a reflection of the class dynamics that afford some people that have the means to take risks while others don't. In this way, the first season of Boy Meets World reveals itself to be a deeply conservative show, taking the status quo of its world for granted to teach lessons that are less universal when stepping outside of the bubble it creates. This isn't to say the show didn't at least make some attempts at making contemporary critiques. In the episode Teacher's Bet, Mr. Feeney challenges Corey with teaching the rest of the class ahead of an upcoming test, with the promise of a nude bike if he can get more kids to pass the test. As the class spirals out of control, Corey tries to regain some of it, and he's forced to learn the material more deeply so he can teach it to his fellow students. And the class's particular lesson for this week is on discrimination. Corey struggles as he's under the assumption that discrimination is a thing of the past until something happens to Eric's girlfriend, Linda.
Some jerk at the mall called her a bad name.
Where? Our mall?
What did he call you?
Oh, it's not important, Morgan. In our mall right here?
When Corey tries to teach the class about discrimination, he uses an unconventional method. He calls Sean an anti-Italian racial slur.
What did you call me?
You heard what I called you.
Did you hear what he called me?
I heard what he called you.
What are you gonna do about it?
He's the teacher. What are you going to do about it?
I'm gonna knock his head off.
What if you couldn't? What if you couldn't do anything about it?
What?
What if you lived in a country where I could kill you just because of your mom's last name?
Corey, what are you talking about?
A 15-year-old girl is dead. Doesn't anybody care?
The number of kids who passed was the same as last time, so Corey doesn't win the bet, but that's a pretty good result considering Corey is just a kid and he apparently teaches just as well as Mr. Feeney. For one test anyway. Corey's methods are extreme, and the sort that would only work among kids, as a teacher using a racial slur on a student would take a different tone. But it does highlight how the show is willing to acknowledge an issue like prejudice, albeit from the perspective of a group of characters who are largely only talking about it hypothetically in a classroom setting. It also at least introduces us to Linda, putting a face to an actual victim of discrimination, though her guest role wouldn't last more than this episode. And it speaks volumes that the show had to bring in a whole new character to even have the means of directly approaching the topic of racial discrimination. In this way, Boy Meets World was able to tackle an important issue, though its work is really just in uncovering that truth, that discrimination still exists in the modern day, which is, of course, very valuable to know. But it doesn't take it much further than that. It doesn't explore where these ideas come from, the systems that uphold them, or how to undermine them. Though, fair enough, perhaps it's worth stepping back and acknowledging that such a deep dive in discrimination is a bit too much for an 11-year-old. Episodes such as these reveal the series wasn't afraid of veering away from the silly or comedic associated with sitcoms that focus on kids, and in the future, the series would more fully embrace weightier subjects. The first season of Boy Meets World is a bit of an outlier, clearly geared toward a younger audience, and the only season before the teen years of Corey and his friends. That may be why it played it so safe, taking a very conventional approach to depicting the precarious journey from childhood to adulthood. Later seasons would be far more daring. Season 2 brought with it a number of major changes. Most importantly, Corey and his friends would be going to high school, although we wouldn't be watching all of their high school journeys. The character Stuart Minkus exited the series after Season 1, and he would be replaced by Topanga. This wasn't based on a competing spot though. At the same time, on Family Matters, the character of Steve Urkel was massively popular. Minkus was considered too similar to Urkel, and so he was cut from the show. Season 2 also brought a number of new faces as well. Corey and Sean were confronted by their first bully, Harley Kiner, played by Danny McNulty, flanked by his henchman, Joey, played by Blake Soper, and Frankie, played by Ethan Suplee. Anthony Tyler Quinn joined the principal cast as the high school English teacher, Jonathan Turner, a young teacher who adopts a different approach from last year's Mr. Feeney.
What is that, X-Men?
No, it's...
What, I don't know X-Men when I see it? It's a great issue, wasn't it?
You read X-Men?
Do I read X-Men? Fantasy worlds, epic heroism, yeah, I read X-Men. In fact, let's all read X-Men. Your assignment is to read The Odyssey and this issue of X-Men.
This doesn't mean Mr. Feeney would be leaving us though. Not only was he transferred to the same school Corey and Sean went to, John Adams High School, but he would be pulling double duty as both history teacher and school principal.
Mr. Feeney?
The legend continues.
The cast weren't the only ones changing though. The audience was starting to change alongside them. Michael Jacobs explained in an interview. At the beginning of the series, Sean, Feeney, and Topanga all tested higher than Corey Matthews, because these were the characters that viewers understood. You understood Sean immediately. You understood Topanga as odd and lovely and wonderful. Feeney was the authority figure. He tested highest, even with kids. But by the second season, Corey eclipsed everybody. What happened was, the kids wanted to be Sean and wanted to be Topanga. They don't want to say they want to be what they are. Corey became a hero for being himself, and everybody flocked to the fact that, wait, I have potential in just being who I am. And kids were finally honest enough to answer the question correctly. Who do I associate with? I am Cory Matthews. As the audience found its footing, so did the series, and Boy Meets World began to grow into a more sophisticated show, speaking to the real issues and concerns facing kids who no longer saw the series as solely aspirational, but rather something that reflected their own lives. And the character of Sean Hunter would serve as a lesson in how things can go wrong. Although he blew up a mailbox and faced some financial hardship in Season 1, it's Seasons 2 and 3 that really establish how Sean's life differs from Cory's. Actor Ryder Strong explained his interpretation of Sean in an interview saying, Sean was always a reminder that not everything in Boy Meets World land is happy, healthy, perfect family where everybody's great. Sean was an important reminder that outside the Matthews family, there's potential for kids to go wrong, some way or another. Obviously, within the confines of a safe family sitcom, so it's not like Sean was shooting up or killing people. While Sean wasn't about to blow up a mailbox every week on the show, he did continue to engage in some low-level hijinks, like changing the school paper's headline to a solid burn on Mr. Feeney.
New principal is weenie.
The headline is traced to Cory, who decides to cover for Sean, and the episode is about not writing out your friend when they do something wrong. And by something wrong, in this case, they mean something totally awesome. While Cory is the positive influence keeping Sean from screwing up too badly, the limits of that are tested as the bullies present an alternative in the episode Wrong Side of the Tracks.
Look, I just think you're gonna have a problem if you hang out with guys like that.
Yeah, well, they happen to be my kind of guys, okay? We're part of the same circle.
Look, Sean.
Cory, let go.
We find out that Sean believes his own future has already been decided.
Cory, you and I are different, and sooner or later we're gonna end up in different places.
Says who?
Why don't we both just do us a favor right now and call it quits, okay?
What has gotten into you?
You just don't get it, do you?
Get what?
Look at your house, Cory. Look at where you live. Look at where I live. Look at your parents. Look at my parents. I know where I'm gonna end up. Just let me get there now.
Sean!
Just let me get there now!
What's interesting about Sean's turn away from Cory is not that Cory is a bad friend, as we just saw Cory willing to take the fall for Sean in an earlier episode. This is about how Sean sees himself, and how he doesn't consider a guy like him good enough to be friends with a guy like Cory. Ironically, Sean wants to stop hanging around Cory because he cares enough to not want to drag him down with the path he assumes he's on. For all of Cory's work to help his friend, it's not quite enough to steer Sean in the right direction as the influence of the bullies increases.
If you're gonna do this, Sean, then I'm gonna do
This
it.
is not your place, okay?
What are you saying, I don't belong here?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Look, if you belong here, then I belong here.
Hey, Baboon, look, we got some business here, all right? So I suggest that you walk away while your legs still bend only once.
Listen, Kyler, this is between me and Sean, so take your greasy head and your rat-faced thug and get away from my friend.
Luckily for Sean, and Cory's face, Mr. Turner shows up to talk some sense into Sean.
I need to know what's gonna happen to me, and you can't tell me that.
Hey, Hunter. All Matthews can do is be your friend. And so far, he's been doing a real good job. All I can do is teach you whatever I can and hope that you'll leave my class a little better than when you came in.
I mean, drag the trailer park trash up to decent society?
Hey, if you don't know that deep down inside you're all right, then I haven't taught you anything at all.
You think I'm all right?
I think you need to think you're all right.
You think I'm all right?
I think if you put your mind to it and get back inside that school, and never, never go near this Harley or that Harley, yeah, I think you'll be all right.
What was so great about this episode is that it reveals Sean's bad behavior isn't a product of some inner drive to be a bad kid, but rather a reflection of how Sean sees himself through the world around him. All the jokes and comments about being poor and not getting good grades reinforce the idea that Sean's not someone who's going to succeed in life. And as his performance worsens, those messages get louder and louder, and the only way to break the cycle is for people in his life to show him that he's worth more than what the world is telling him. Implicit in this is a condemnation of a society that lets any kid feel lesser than some social standard because they may not be excelling at school, or they come from a less privileged background. Although the series doesn't explore these topics directly in this episode, it does become more explicit as the show progresses, and the pensive expression on Mr. Turner's face at the end of the episode reveals that this issue hasn't been entirely settled. The 2 episodes at the end of Season 2, Career Day and Home, further emphasize the unfolding tragedy of Sean's life when his mother runs off with the family's mobile home and Chet's father chases after her, leaving Sean behind. Chet Hunter is played by Blake Clark.
Your mother, she took off.
Oh, just go home and wait. She always comes back.
Oh, not that easy. This time she took the house. See, that's the problem with having a mobile home. It's, you can move it.
Sean ends up staying with the Matthews family, and we quickly find out that situation is not ideal.
You know, Amy, I like Sean. I really do, but these past 3 weeks have not been the easiest. Not on our nerves or our budget.
Well, it isn't Sean's fault.
I don't blame him. I blame Chet. What kind of father abandons his son like that?
With hospitality wearing thin at the Matthews home, Sean decides to take up Mr. Turner's offer for a place to stay. And when Sean finds out that his father isn't coming back anytime soon, that offer becomes more permanent.
How about I give you a home?
What, your place?
Yeah, my place.
For how long? 3 weeks and then you get sick of me?
Well, I'm sick of you now, Hunter, but I'm still making the offer.
Why?
Because I'm thinking I should do something for somebody else.
This episode completes the 2nd season's arc for Mr. Turner and Sean, as the two branch off into some of their own stories for the 3rd season. But what's worth highlighting here is how the characters of Mr. Turner and Sean are wildly different in what they represent in the real world. Sean's experience is common enough that we could expect to see it in the real world today. A kid who's told he'll never amount to anything because he's poor, then goes on to live down to those expectations. Mr. Turner is a teacher who takes an interest in helping that kid, which does certainly happen in the real world, though he goes a lot farther than you would normally see, going so far as to open his home to this kid so he'll have a safe place to stay. When Sean's circumstances start getting bad, it's this extraordinarily uncommon step that keeps him from running away into the unknown, away even from his friend Corey and what little security he might have with the Matthews. The contrast here reveals that Sean's ordinary life, with the destiny of failure impressed upon him by society, requires extraordinary effort from a teacher to fix. And what about the kids who aren't as lucky as Sean to have a teacher like Mr. Turner, or even a friend like Corey? The relationship between Sean and Mr. Turner continues to be explored in the 3rd season as the two bond. We even get sweet moments like these where Sean tries to run away for the 3rd time in the series.
Look, if you really want to go to Europe, we'll go together next summer.
I could see that working.
But only if you start going to class and getting those grades up. Okay? Come on, you got a history test to make up.
Hey, kid, you listen to your dad.
By the end of the 3rd season, it appeared as though Mr. Turner was finally going to adopt Sean, but Sean can't turn his back on his father, and the two of them reconcile and move back to the trailer park.
Sean, I left you with Turner's because in my mind it was a better place.
I know it was a good place, Dad, but I wouldn't call it better. It wasn't with you. It wasn't home. I need you. And I'm thinking you need me.
And so the Mr. Turner experiment, at least when it came to taking care of Sean, came to an end.
Hey, Sean, I don't even need to ask. I can tell this is what you want.
You know, John, this is like we said. We knew that this wasn't forever.
Hey, a roof and a bed.
And a good friend.
Best.
But there was more to the Mr. Turner character than taking care of Sean. When he was first introduced in Season 2, he also acted as a foil to the more traditional Mr. Feeney. The Season 2 premiere helped establish that dynamic in this moment.
I realize that you're the new groovy teacher, and I'm the hide-bound traditionalist.
Well, I just thought I might use the material to sort of relate to them on their level.
Oh, Mr. Turner, their level is the level of the beasts of the field. I want them off that level and closer to our level. Or should I say, my level.
This exchange raises an interesting question. What is the best way to improve a person's understanding of the world? Do we go to them on their own level, or do we demand that they come up to ours? If you start low, you might not provide them with the support so they can pull themselves up higher. But if you start high, they might not try to reach up at all. One of the more interesting clashes between Mr. Feeney and Mr. Turner is in the episode Wake Up Little Corey, where Mr. Turner assigns his class to videotape each other talking about love and sex.
We give them these books that have these classic scenes of romance, yet we have no idea what's going on in their heads about sex and love.
Oh, neither do they, Mr. Turner. Mr. Turner, in the matter of sex, I prefer they make no connection until they're out of our jurisdiction.
Well, don't you think that thinking's a little antiquated, George?
I prefer to think of it as classic.
Corey and Topanga partner up for this assignment. After telling their parents they're staying at each other's homes, Corey and Topanga spend the whole night editing footage at school, and then they fall asleep together. only to be discovered later on. Corey soon becomes a legend at school.
Are you the man? Or are you just you?
I guess I'm the man.
On the other hand, Topanga's reputation is not so esteemed.
Look, I just said what I said because everyone wanted me to say it.
Well, you know what I want? I want my good name back. I feel like you used to be a good friend, and now I don't know what you are. But I don't like you.
Meanwhile, the two teachers discuss the fallout.
You have proven that our attitudes about sex have not changed for 400 years, and that a rumor can still destroy a young girl's reputation.
Rumors can only exist when things aren't out in the open. I was trying to get them to move from rumors and secrets to honest, open discussion.
And was your trust justified?
The assignment isn't in yet.
Corey then cuts together a version of their assignment that's more about love than sex, and includes a confession from him.
And the reason I don't have that much to say about sex is because I don't have a lot of experience in that area. Some people think I do, but I don't. And if I let people think that I had some experience with someone, well, you know, it really isn't fair to that person that I didn't have the experience with. So I'd like to say I'm sorry to that person, and I should have acted more mature.
Corey and Topanga make up, but also important is how Mr. Feeney admits he might have been wrong.
Perhaps this project is going to serve some purpose after all. I'm shocked.
Me too.
What makes this dynamic particularly interesting is that both teachers have a point. The assignment did spiral out of control, and for a little while, it made Topanga's life horrible. But it was also in that adversity that Corey was able to rise to the occasion, though it seems a bit unfair for him to have learned a lesson at the expense of someone else. It did reveal an important gender dynamic when it comes to sex and gossip, though, and how it benefits the boys while hurting the girls, and that it was the side in power that needed to learn the lesson, not the side that's victimized. But above all the lessons learned in this episode, what caught my eye was how the clashing styles of Mr. Feeney and Mr. Turner reveal that neither one is entirely right. Mr. Turner overestimated how well the kids would handle talking about sex, and Mr. Feeney underestimated them. In these seasons, the series is very much about replacing the idea of the always wise and unerring Mr. Feeney with an alternative to that style of teaching, suggesting that it's not that kids can only learn through classic methods, but also the question on how to educate kids is a negotiation between old and new techniques, ideally finding the optimal way of moving forward by experimenting with what new stuff might work, while holding on to the old stuff that still does. This episode also marks part of the small drift Corey and Topanga had towards one another throughout the second season. It wouldn't be happening all at once, but series creator Michael Jacobs explained this was an idea he had early on. I thought, what's going to happen with this boy confused by life? What would be the stabilizing influences? And I thought he would want to discover and find love forever, and we pretty much decided early on that wouldn't it be great if we could do a show about a kid who knew what he wanted? Fell in absolute love with somebody, and against every conceivable storyline we could come up, they would make it work. And that was something that we wanted early on. The second season's second episode, Pairing Off, introduces the world of dating to the series, and it would be a major focal point for the rest of its run. It also signified that this show would be growing up alongside its characters and its audience.
Topanga, my girl, my friend, my girly friend. Believe me, I don't want this any more than you do, but everybody around here is pairing off, and I think you and I should spare ourselves a lot of uncoolness and walk through life together.
Corey and Topanga aren't quite ready to be a thing just yet.
Corey, when guys and girls go out, first they fall passionately in love. Then after a week they hate each other. So for one great passionate week, we lose a friendship that could last a lifetime.
I mean, if you are.
Corey, don't worry. I'm sure there's someone out there for you.
Give me a name!
Corey steps out in the world and has a few dates with other girls, though none of them last for very long. Although maybe he should have worked on his fashion sense a bit more. I'm not sure the plaid shirt on top of another plaid shirt on top of a third shirt was really working for him. But while these other girls give Corey a taste of dating life, he's consistently drawn closer to Topanga. And it's in season 3 that we see Corey and Topanga get closer in the episode My Best Friend's Girl, where Sean decides to push things along.
You were right, Sean. I mean, you warned me this would happen.
I did?
Yeah, you said Topanga looked hot. And if I waited too long, some other guy was gonna move right in.
I did.
I brought this on. I can only blame myself. I just wonder who asked her.
I did.
Huh? Ask Topanga.
Driven by jealousy, Corey finally asks out Topanga.
Topanga, if I had to dream up the perfect woman, she wouldn't even come close to you. Would you be my girlfriend?
And of course, Corey and Sean remain bros.
There's a setup. Come here. Oh, thank you.
As the Corey and Topanga relationship develops, we learn more about their history with one another.
And then Eric came outside and started teasing us.
He said, Corey loves Topanga. You said, yuck, I hate her.
That's when I knew.
Corey, we were only 6.
Who cares?
Corey and Topanga's history before the start of the show changes throughout the years, but more important than the messy continuity is how these changing stories establish their deep romantic connection, presenting young love as something eternally true. A love story like this sticks out like a sore thumb, particularly in the present day where most relationships have traded romanticism for realism. It's probably here that the series feels most unreal, although it's done in a way that isn't quite as simple as the fairy tale it's often remembered as. Aside from Corey and Topanga needing 2 seasons to even start dating, they break up very quickly, 11 episodes later, in The Grass is Always Greener.
Corey, maybe the people who end up hating each other are the people who waited too long to break up.
So are you saying you want to break up with me?
I'm saying I want to keep caring about you as much as I care about you now.
Then we should break up right away so we can still stay great friends.
Which we've always been.
Yeah. Yeah, and that'll never change, right?
Yeah.
It would be another 9 episodes before we see them reconcile when they go to Disney World in The Happiest Show on Earth.
We did break up for a reason, right?
Yeah, we did.
And that reason was...
So we could get back together.
A cynical reading of an episode like this would be how Corey and Topanga are meant to be together insofar that they are brought together by the corporate facsimile of magic, the needs for sitcom romances to end happily, and they reconcile at another corporate facsimile of magic, Disney World. But I think it would be unfair to write this romance off entirely. It took Corey and Topanga nearly 2 seasons to reach this point after all, struggling to come to terms with their feelings and then making an effort to stay together. And this would hardly be the storybook ending for the couple as they had more challenges to come in the future. The romanticism of this pairing confronts the harsh reality of the real world. It's a small example of how idealism can survive the crushing weight of the cynical world, but only if the people involved are willing to do the work to stay together. And far from being perfect, they stumble and fall along the way. That's what helps make this couple feel relatable. They represent the good of the old that overcomes the challenges of the new. The idea that love, when it's real, can overcome anything, so long as you don't give up on it. A few notes before leaving these seasons, there were several changes to the cast. When the character Harley exits the series, he's briefly replaced by Adam Scott as Griff. Griff wouldn't last long, and the bullies would be phased out of the series in later seasons. Season 3 also introduced the character Eli Williams to the principal cast, played by Alex Desire. He was a friend of Mr. Turner and briefly a teacher at John Adams High School. Though with Mr. Turner playing less of a role in Season 4, his friend exited the series entirely at the end of Season 3. The biggest departure was saying goodbye to the original Morgan in Season 2. Lily Nixay was not terribly happy being on the show, so it was decided she would leave. She would be replaced halfway through Season 3 by Lindsay Ridgway. As for why we didn't see Morgan for so long, she explained that it was a very long time out. And later in Season 3 we find out why she got that time out.
A month? I got more the time I said.
Morgan! You get up to your room there. You're grounded for 2 months.
I gotta learn self-control.
As Boy Meets World matured, so too did the type of stories it told. The simpler ideas of listening to your teacher in the first season gave way to more complicated relationships with authority in the second and third. And through the character of Sean, class dynamics and expectations began to make their way through the safe middle-class bubble we had first met him in. In Season 4 and 5, this became increasingly more pronounced, in particular as more of Sean's family became part of the story. With Mr. Turner out and Chet Hunter in as Sean's father figure, we get a better sense of where Sean came from and how that shaped him. In Fishing for Verna, we meet Sean's mother, Verna, played by Shireen Mitchell, ready to try being a family again with the Hunter men.
I'm gonna be the best father you could have. But I guess up till now I've been keeping it a secret.
Dad? Your secret's out.
Can I come in?
Chet tries to be a better father by getting a stable job as the school janitor.
Dad? Mr. Hunter?
Chet Hunter, Educational Custodial Services. Normal job for normal people.
Sean is eventually drawn into a fight with a kid mocking his father. When Sean makes a trip to the principal's office, Mr. Feeney offers to fire Chet, knowing Sean would eventually realize he doesn't want to take away his father's first steady paycheck.
There it is. Dad's first paycheck. Well, looky here. And I earned it. I really did.
In addition to Sean learning an important lesson, what was particularly nice about this episode was featuring someone working a janitorial job who doesn't, and shouldn't, feel any shame about it.
You don't have to do that, Sean.
I know I don't. And I know you don't either.
Chet may not have been the best dad, but in the 4th season, he makes an effort to be better, and that happens to start with working a job to support his family. And it serves as a reminder that people's lives can take a number of turns for a variety of reasons, whether it be a few bad choices or just some bad luck. It doesn't matter nearly as much as treating them with respect and acknowledging the hard work they do. This job isn't a punishment for Chet's mistakes, but an opportunity to start making things right. It also shows us that these are people with lives and families who take some pride and joy in their work. The episode where Verna returned similarly took a moment to acknowledge the school cafeteria lunch server as well, revealing how the Hunter family is strongly connected to working class characters. Although these are small gestures in the grand scheme of things, they are appreciated nonetheless. Sean's family also offers a glimpse into more class dynamics when his parents depart, and in the 5th season we meet Sean's half-brother, Jack, played by Matthew Lawrence. Jack is not to be confused with Sean's other brother, Eddie, who we briefly meet and then never hear about again in the Season 3 episode, The Pink Flamingo Kid. Jack joins Boy Meets World in Season 5 opener, Brothers. Whereas Sean grew up in poverty with their father, Jack lived comfortably with his mother and her new husband. Although they have trouble getting along because of their time apart, they do at least partially reconcile by the end of the episode and move in together as Chet takes off once again.
Hey, welcome to your new home, bud. Thanks. Comes with hardwood floors, high ceilings, and a brother.
And their other roommate is Corey's brother, Eric. Throughout the series, Jack's posh upbringing would create a divide between the two and serve as a constant reminder of where these two characters came from. Michael Jacobs explained the decision to include Jack in an interview saying, Tony's character and Alex Desert, who played Eli Williams, all of these wonderful teachers were very beneficial to us, but it was always a coming-of-age comedy, and these teachers had long since come of age. But we felt that where the magnifying glass needed to be was on the generation that was coming of age, and that's why we added Jack. Over time, we would see less of these class dynamics as part of Sean's stories, as another plotline would dominate his stories in later seasons, and Jack would appear more often in stories with Eric. But in these seasons, it was established that in the comfy middle-class space of Boy Meets World, Sean would sometimes take the role of an outsider, his lower-class past and absent parents reminding him that he doesn't quite fit in. Another important addition to Sean's side of the stories was the arrival of Angela Moore, played by Trina McGee. Although just a random student in her first appearance, she would play a much bigger role in the episode I Love You, Donna Karen, where Sean, growing dissatisfied with his 2-week limit dating life, falls for the owner of a lost purse.
And what if it's not as good as what I have now?
With the purse?
Just drop it, Corey.
Listen, what are you so afraid of?
I'm afraid of getting hurt, okay? I mean, I've seen the pain on my father's face every time a woman walks out because he's not good enough.
Sean, you are not your father.
Sean later finds out the items in the purse belonged to Angela, who he had just broken up with, and he's suddenly filled with regrets. And after a bit of back and forth on the subject, the two eventually begin dating once again, only this time for longer than 2 weeks. The relationship would be a part of the rest of Season 5, but it was later seasons that we would more fully explore this dynamic. As the series matured, it began tackling bigger social issues, so much so that a number of episodes would be devoted to challenging topics. In the episode Dangerous Secret, Corey suspects Sean is hooking up with Claire, a girl in their class, only to find out that Claire has been staying with Sean to get away from her abusive father.
Okay, Claire and I aren't doing anything. We never have. The reason she's been staying at my place, her dad hits her.
What do you mean he hits her?
At night, sometimes. He yells a lot and beats her up.
Claire fears her father is untouchable as he happens to be a bank vice president, and even though the episode ends with Claire going to the police, it only holds the vague hope that something might improve with her father going to therapy. The story related back to the main cast in a more roundabout way. When Corey thought Sean was having sex, he started pushing that line with Topanga, only to realize he shouldn't base his decision on social pressure, but instead on whether he and Topanga were both ready. In cult fiction, feeling disconnected from the world, Sean decides to join a cult.
Do you believe in a mother and a father and a comfortable house and a comfortable street because that's what you have? Well, I don't have that. So I found something with these people.
Yeah, but who are these people?
Stop trying to take away what I have. I don't do that to you.
Eventually, when Mr. Turner is in a motorcycle accident, Corey talks some sense into Sean.
Turner took care of you. He loves you. And you love him. Is that real? Or are Mr. Mack and the Senna real? You decide, but you cannot go.
This episode hits on the familiar Sean theme of feeling disconnected from the world and the need for a home. This episode is also, weirdly, the last time we see Mr. Turner in Boy Meets World. And in If You Can't Be With the One You Love, Sean develops a drinking problem.
Nobody's listening to me, okay? I drink this stuff because I like it. It makes me feel good. Hello? Hello? Is this thing on? I have no problem.
Okay, maybe we don't have to talk about this in front of everybody. Let's just go out into the hall.
Go.
I don't like that you drink. Call me when you don't.
Aside from one relapse in a later season, Sean's alcoholism is largely wrapped up in this episode. Most sitcoms have a small collection of very special episodes. Very special episodes being particularly dramatic episodes that tackle social issues. But Boy Meets World seemed to have multiple very special episodes every season. For a family sitcom, it very aggressively went after these serious topics, and that might speak to why it continued to resonate over the years. Boy Meets World did have a tendency to wrap these stories up a bit quickly. Sean joining and escaping a cult really leaps to mind as a wonder how such a traumatic event could be encapsulated in a little over 20 minutes. It's helped by playing to common themes of the character, but it still feels like a stretch. What these episodes reveal are a lot of good intentions beyond the capacity of a 20-minute family sitcom, even one that's relatively well put together like Boy Meets World. It also reveals the limitations of its themes. Unless the problem was simple and relatable, it didn't fit the format particularly well, and the ones that reached across multiple episodes tended to be more broad and less specific than a drinking disorder. It's also worth thinking about how these series began with the idea of school and other places being safe staging grounds for these short lessons. If these traumas persisted, it would change the tone of the show and make Boy Meets World a very different experience, one that might have been too intense for its younger audience, meaning they wouldn't see depictions of these issues at all. There is no right or wrong answer on the best approach to very special episodes, just varying degrees of success or failure based on the premise, characters, and theme a show has to work with. In these seasons, the show also started to drift towards more high-concept episodes, that is, single episodes with a unique premise that allow the characters to be placed in some strange contexts. An early example from season 3 is I Was a Teenage Spy, where Corey is shocked by a microwave and sent back to the 1950s.
Do me a favor, would you?
Anything you want.
Would you look at me that way I don't like?
I thought you said it scared you.
It does.
It was a cute episode that foreshadowed Corey and Topanga getting back together during their third season breakup. In season 4's 16 Candles and 400-Pound Men, Corey and Sean offer advice to Frankie to better connect with his father, who happens to be WWF/WWE wrestler Vader, and they end up at a wrestling match. And in Eric Hollywood, Eric is invited to join the cast of a sitcom called Kid Gets Acquainted with Universe, where he meets a fictionalized version of the cast of the show.
I don't know, Shane. I got a real bad feeling about this one. You know, I've never done anything like this before. Oh, man.
We're doing this story again? How many times have we done this, Matt? 100,000? He's yelling again. Stop the yelling. You know, how can I learn so much every week and still be so stupid?
But the most popular high-concept episode of the series, and maybe the most popular episode of the series, is season 5's And Then There Was Sean. Loosely inspired by the Scream movies, this episode sees everyone trapped in the school at night, with the murderer slowly picking them off, while Sean recounts various horror movie tropes.
If you've seen as many horror films as I have, this is classic. The locked door, the scary janitor, the bloody warning, and our soon-to-be first victim.
Me? Why me? Well, Kenny, it's certainly not going to be any of us. What are you thinking?
The episode isn't just unique in its premise, it's also shot to look more like a horror movie, with camera angles and movements you wouldn't usually see in a sitcom. It even had the gall to murder Mr. Feeney.
I knew it was you all along.
What's the big lesson? What were you trying to teach us?
The episode does a great job of playing with horror movie tropes and delivering some solid jokes.
Well, is any one of us safe?
Yeah, virgins. Virgins never die. All right. Thanks for saving me.
I'm dead. I'm dead.
Well, I'll get as sick as you can get without actually dying.
It also included a special guest appearance from Jennifer Love Hewitt, who was seen in I Know What You Did Last Summer a few months prior. The episode was notoriously difficult to film because the cast broke down laughing for hours at a time, but in spite of those difficulties, the finished product came together so well that it became a fan favorite. Part of the reason for Boy Meets World's success, and why the show was so often able to take these kinds of chances, was because of its below-the-radar status. Michael Jacobs was fairly protective of his show, and the network, rather than deal with lengthy conversations about what the show was doing, let him do as he pleased so long as the numbers were stable. Writer Strong describes how that influenced the audience. When we stepped out of the box with an episode like this, it kind of felt like we were in our own little corner of the playground, and no one was paying attention, which means, in a way, we were thumbing our nose at expanding our audience, and by definition, building a cult following. Even though, And Then There Was Sean was a bit of fun, it still connected back to one of the main through lines of the series in an important way. By the end of the episode, the whole experience is revealed to be a bad dream of Sean's, though in the dream, the killer is revealed to be Sean himself. As for why he's killing his friends, it's revealed in this moment.
Why are you doing this to us?
Sean is tearing the world apart because he can't stand that Cory and Topanga have broken up again. Yes, broken up again, and that's as good a transition as any to give us a brief rundown of what the fated couple of Cory and Topanga were doing in seasons 4 and 5. At the end of season 3, our happy couple was still together, but they started facing more hardships part of the way through season 4. In the two-parter A Long Walk to Pittsburgh, Topanga is devastated to learn that her family is moving from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh, putting her relationship with Cory in jeopardy.
Okay, I don't care if I have to walk to Pittsburgh. Nothing's gonna come between us, all right? We're gonna be together for the rest of our lives. Okay, so there.
Cory's refusal to acknowledge the truth is tough to watch.
We're leaving for Pittsburgh.
No, you're not moving because we're supposed to be together like we've always talked about. So you can't move because we don't deserve that kind of pain.
Cory, will you just give me a hug and a kiss and say goodbye to me?
No.
Goodbye, Cory. I love you.
As the weeks drag on and Cory's loved ones try to help him move on, he gets increasingly frustrated not hearing from Topanga, and he's about ready to give up.
I'm sure you'll be real happy to know that I'm not gonna go to Pittsburgh, okay?
Why not? You and Topanga have a fight?
No fight. I just realized that I'm the one making all the phone calls. I'm the one writing all the letters, but I will not be the one who travels 300 miles to be rejected and look like a fool. So if life doesn't want me and Topanga together, then you can't fight life, can you?
Cory.
This might be my favorite moment in the whole series. Part of it is the reaction from the audience, and part of it is seeing how passionate young love can be. Topanga has run away from home, and even though Cory's parents aren't thrilled, he offers his own definition of love in an effort to keep them together.
When I'm better because she's here. And now she won't be.
In other shows, this wouldn't be working. It's so sweet, it's practically dripping honey. But somehow, Boy Meets World manages to walk this line without falling on its face. It does require the audience to be willing to believe in Cory and Topanga, believe in the idea of young love being something special that can last the test of time. This feeling is only underscored when Topanga's aunt Prudence arrives, as she is played by Olivia Hussey, who famously played Juliet in 1968 Franco Zeffirelli's film adaptation of Romeo and Juliet. It's Topanga's aunt who offers her a place to stay in Philadelphia so she can spend her last year of high school in the place she's familiar with, among her friends and, most importantly, with Cory. This might have been the best episode for the Cory and Topanga relationship, even though it's complete fantasy, unbearably sentimental, and still somehow works. It's the comfort you don't get with the more cynical TV that was popularized in later years. Maybe this is why it's such a strong symbol of youth and nostalgia, when we believe true love could happen at 16, and nothing was more important than being with the person you cared the most about. Cory and Topanga are seesawing between fantasy and reality, and after a bit of fantasy in season 4, it would swing back to reality in season 5. In Heartbreak Corey, the senior class goes on a ski trip to Mount Sun Lodge, where Corey sprains his ankle getting off the bus, leaving him at the lodge while everyone else goes skiing. Keeping him company is Lauren, played by Linda Cardellini, an employee at the lodge.
Lauren. Thanks, it's been the best day with a mildly sprained ankle I've ever had.
Corey ends up talking with Lauren throughout the night, and on the next day lies about his ankle still being sore, so he's once again trapped at the lodge. With Lauren.
I wasn't expecting you, but sometimes people take you by surprise. Surprise.
Corey tells the truth to Topanga about having spent the night talking to Lauren, but he leaves out the part about the kiss. Corey says goodbye to Lauren, though she leaves him with a letter, which Topanga finds at the end of the episode. Topanga confronts Corey about the letter in the next episode, and in the episode after that one, torn between two lovers, feeling like a fool, Lauren shows up in Philadelphia.
Corey! What are you doing here?
I just spent 4 hours on a bus. Corey, can you give me something better than what are you doing here?
I'm meeting Topanga here, okay? And I don't want her to see us together.
Can't always get what you want.
Topanga tells Corey that if he isn't 100% sure about the two of them, he should spend some time with Lauren. So he does, and he spends the day talking to Lauren. Later on, Corey makes his decision.
I like Lauren. I like spending time with her. But I can live without her. I can't live without Topanga. It's no contest.
And then he talks to Topanga about the experience.
Corey, I can't see you anymore.
What?
Do you have any idea how many guys hit on me?
What are you talking about?
I never needed to test my feelings for you. I moved away from my parents in Pittsburgh to be close to you. But that you needed to see her. To test how you felt about me. I don't forgive you for that, Corey.
No! You told me to see her, Topanga. You told me to see how I felt.
And you listened.
It's gonna be okay.
No, it won't.
What made this breakup so powerful was that it was a slow build over 3 episodes. A couple like Corey and Topanga can't end things with a single fight. It took time and a series of bad choices, and when it ends, it feels like a real ending. This is the episode that preceded, and then there was Sean. Episodes like these are in stark contrast to the more idyllic ones where Topanga goes to Corey in the rain, or the heartfelt moment in Topanga's room. It's a reminder that even supposedly perfect relationships are a lot of work, and that it's better to be honest than hide something from your partner. It also reflects how the series has changed the lessons it was teaching, moving from stories about fitting into the wider world to how people fit into each other's lives. And the lessons are getting more complex and messy. That's why the stories have drifted away from the nice, tidy lessons learned at the close of each episode to lingering doubts and confusion. It reflects how some parts of the world aren't so easily learned from a speech delivered by Mr. Feeney. But the Corey and Topanga story didn't end here. In Starry Night, Topanga meets a guy named Ricky, played by Jonathan Jackson, and is taken by his deep love of art. Unsure of whether or not she's ready to move on, she tries taking Corey to see Van Gogh's Starry Night to get his impression of the piece.
Listen, you don't reduce our relationship to what you think about me because of what I see in a painting. That's not important. What matters is what I see in you and what you see in me.
What I see in you? Portrait of somebody I thought I knew. How were you able to spend the whole night talking to some girl, then kiss her the next day and still think you care about me?
Because I did, and I do.
You don't, or you wouldn't be able to do those things, Corey.
Those kind of things do not happen for no reason. They happen to teach you something. And I know now that I will never, ever love anybody more than I love you.
Topanga isn't satisfied with Corey's answer.
This is just a painting.
This is a masterpiece.
We're a masterpiece. And I don't care what you think right now. We're gonna be together forever. And I know that. But you still need to find that out. You know where I'll be.
Topanga decides to go out with Ricky, and when they kiss, she learns something.
Do you know what I felt when he kissed me?
Yeah, I probably do.
Nothing.
What?
I called him today to let him know I can't ever see him again.
You did?
Because I'm in love, Angela. I don't mean high school, I love you too. I mean, I am in love with Cory Matthews. And I want to be. There's nobody else in the world for me, and there never will be. I'm taken.
And all that's left is for them to get back together.
It's a beautiful painting.
But it's just a painting. We're real, and you always understood that. I love you, but I will always love you.
With Cory and Topanga reconciled, the rest of the season will supposedly play out just fine, until they're faced with one more challenge. In Things Change, Topanga is offered a spot at Yale, which dashed the plans she's made with Cory to attend Pembroke University together.
Congratulations, Topanga. I mean that.
How did you know I was accepted?
Because I know the way my life works.
Cory tells Topanga she should take the chance to go to Yale. And in the season 5 finale, Graduation, Cory and his friends prepare to end their high school lives. And we get a cute cameo from Minkus.
Saying goodbye to people who've been around but we sort of lost touch with.
Like who?
Well, I don't know. I guess there's nobody really like that. Hi, Minkus.
Oh, now it's Hi Minkus. For the last 4 years, it's like I haven't even been in the same school with you guys.
Well, you know, we just never saw you around.
I was just in the other part of the school.
What other part of the school?
You know, over there.
Well, we don't go there.
Yeah, you go over there, you may never come back.
Ah, that's crazy. Hey, Mr. Turner, wait up.
More importantly, though, we find out what Topanga's decision is regarding Yale.
Mr. Feeney said I should go to Yale unless I have a really good reason not to.
Well, there isn't any good reason.
Actually, there is. Will you marry me?
As far as sitcom cliffhangers go, The Unanswered Proposal is a classic, and had this couple not just been put through the ringer for the last 10 episodes, it might have felt like it was coming out of nowhere. But in this case, it felt entirely natural. Part of that reason is because Cory and Topanga's relationship has always been too idyllic, so set in a romantic fantasy that it was hard to take seriously. But in seasons 4 and 5, it started to feel more real. The challenges were more difficult, and the answers were less obvious or certain. These were the seasons that pulled that relationship into the real world to test its ability to survive. And after going through some tough trials, it proved that it was the real thing. But this is a relationship built on an amorphous past, one that seemed destined. But the only reason it was destined is because of the traditional sentimentality that went into making the show. Boy Meets World is a very earnest series, not shying away from sensitive issues or social commentary. But at its heart, it's still a very traditional family sitcom. It has one foot in the present and another in the past. The show itself manifests this in the dynamic between Mr. Feeney and Mr. Turner in season 2. This show is about how children become adults and the forces of constancy and change that shape them. And in this maelstrom of forces, Cory and Topanga make it through, with their romanticized version of love staying intact, now hardened by the harsh winds of reality. And ultimately, this might be the perfect symbol as to why the show became such a comforting favorite, because it tells you that through all the noise and fury, so long as you really work at it, everything's going to be okay.
God is protecting the people in this little town. They live their lives and they come out of their houses and they see the sky. And they know God's protection and love. And that everything will be all right.
When this boy meets world.
Rather than keep everyone hanging, let's make one thing perfectly clear. Here is Cory's answer to Topanga's proposal.
Topanga, it's not every day that a guy gets asked a question like that, and it's not every day I can give you an... So you got a ring for me or what?
That's a yes, by the way. While they tease a quick wedding afterwards, ultimately Cory and Topanga decide to have a long engagement instead. There are plenty of other changes in store for the cast in these final 2 seasons, aside from the impending nuptials. Most obviously, we see Corey, Topanga, Sean, and Angela all heading off to Pembroke University. Corey and Sean become roommates in their dorm, while Topanga and Angela do the same in their dorm. And this might be a good time to look at some of the other characters they're joining at Pembroke. Over the last 5 seasons, Eric Matthews has gone through a bit of a transformation. In earlier seasons, he was the cool older brother who always had a new date every week, but as the seasons progressed, that changed as the character became increasingly more silly. According to Will Friedle, the first sign of this was in the first season, when he got the chance to be in a scene with William Daniels. And he had to think of a funny way of throwing down a bag of fertilizer.
So, where would you like me to move this enormously heavy bag of fertilizer?
I hadn't planned on moving it at all.
Well, let me just effortlessly toss it over here then.
The lesson learned was to always go big in comedy, and over the years we would see Eric going further and further over the top.
Mr. Feeney? Mr. Feeney! Mr. Feeney! Mr. Feeney! Feeney! Okay. Feeney! 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 Ow! Hey, what? What? Hey! Ow!
One fan theory as to why this is happening is because the series is told through the eyes of Corey, and part of growing up is seeing your cool, hip older brother for the goofball he really is. And while I would never rob someone of their interpretation, according to Friedle, behind the scenes it was about the writers and Will Friedle challenging each other to get increasingly ridiculous with the character, making him more akin to Friedle in real life, albeit amped up some. So in the final seasons, he would be completely off the wall, like coughing out winning lottery numbers or disguising himself as a couch.
You're crushing Eric.
With Eric not always being a perfect fit in the Corey, Sean, Topanga, and eventually Angela dynamic, Eric was given his own supporting cast. First with the arrival of Sean's brother Jack, who became Eric's roommate along with Sean, and then in season 6, when Sean moved out, a new roommate replaced him, Rachel McGuire, played by Maitland Ward. Michael Jacobs explains this evolution. We knew that Eric was succeeding beautifully as a character, but we also knew that Eric only involved with Sean and Corey seemed odd. We knew that what Eric really needed was somebody to play off of, and Matthew Lawrence was available, and it was a no-brainer to me. And we put them together and then decided to add Maitland Ward, and all of a sudden we had these wonderful secondary stories. The typical dynamic here was Eric and Jack fighting over the beautiful Rachel, though ultimately it was Jack who got the upper hand because it was funnier to see Eric fail.
Dude, come on.
Oh, boys, you know what? I can't figure out how to work the stopper in the bathtub. Can one of you please come show me?
Many of the B-plots were basic stories and thinly veiled excuses to give Will Friedle something funny to do on camera. Occasionally we would see Eric in some more serious stories, such as when he nearly adopted a young boy named Tommy he was mentoring. But generally speaking, Eric's stories were fun college adventures. What Eric best represents, though, is the persistence of friendship. Although his friendships with Jack and Rachel aren't as pronounced as, say, the Corey and Sean friendship, Eric is unusually talented when it comes to understanding people and friendships. In a season 7 two-parter, the first episode titled The War, we see the bonds of this group tested during a series of increasingly harsh pranks. Jack, Rachel, and Angela make up one team, with Corey, Sean, and Topanga on the other team. Eric is left out because no one wants him on their team. Eventually, things get taken too far when Corey and Sean put up a revealing picture of Rachel in the student union. The prank war turns into a fight, and Corey makes an unfortunate comment.
Why are you all taking Rachel's side? You've known me and Sean all your life. You've known Rachel, what, a couple of years? Oh, Rachel, I'm really sorry. That's not how we think of you or anything.
No, it's not.
How stupid am I? I actually thought that you guys were my friends.
And things ripple out from there.
I guess it's no accident the way the teams are picked around here.
Yeah, what a coincidence, huh? Lifelongers versus... Well, I guess I really don't know who we are.
All right. It's you and me now.
Eric tries to make peace between everyone and then finds out the truth.
You weren't on anybody's side.
What are you talking about? Everybody wanted me.
No, nobody wanted you. What? Nobody wanted you on their team.
In the second part, titled Seven the Hard Way, Eric puts aside his bruised ego to work with Mr. Feeney to try and mend these broken friendships. It doesn't go particularly well.
Guys, Rachel's leaving here. Just write down how we feel about each other.
Oh, fine. Look at him side with Sean, his lover.
Oh, very tasteful, honey. Did you hear that, Sean?
Sean, his lover.
Shut up, Yoko. Guys, Rachel left.
You know, that's perfect, right? Even when it's supposed to be about all of us, it always comes back to them.
Mm-hmm. It's never gonna change.
Why didn't you write anything down, huh? Well, shouldn't somebody go after her?
You are making way too much out of this.
It's just stupid little fights that no one's gonna remember after next week.
That may be, Mr. Matthews. But it's been my experience that stupid little fights have a way of escalating into stupid big fights, which can change the course of your future.
Even the closest of friends, Corey and Sean, might not be able to hold it together.
Come on. You're gonna let her come between the greatest friendship of all time?
I just need some time.
Okay. You take all the time you want.
The episode flashes forward 7 years to Mr. Feeney's retirement party to reveal that this fight shattered the group.
Why haven't you and I spoken in 7 years? You guys happy?
Yeah, we are. We have a very nice life.
Good friends?
Yeah, you know, we're okay. You?
Well, it's tough, you know, with all the traveling I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Eric arrives.
Eric? No, not Eric. Not anymore. Uh-huh. It's fine. It's just fine. Okay, well, what is your name now? My name is Plays with Squirrels.
And Plays with Squirrels has some words of wisdom.
Lose one friend, lose all friends, lose yourself.
So why are all the other pages blank?
Nothing else seemed important.
When the episode goes back to the present day, it moves to a few moments after Rachel left, and Eric drags her back to read those same words of wisdom.
Lose one friend, lose all friends, lose yourself.
I mean, what if Mr. Feeney's right? What if we don't fix this? What if this is the last time that we're all together? Is that a chance you're all willing to take?
And it inspires everyone to reconcile. Although Eric can never escape being the goofball, he holds together people much in the same way he holds together the series itself. If Boy Meets World was a series of tragedies, the characters would likely not be able to keep their connection to one another, and the series itself could never maintain its premise as a family-friendly sitcom. Eric is the glue for all of these things, providing consistent comedic relief, and also providing the wisdom needed to hold these characters together in the context of the show. For all the troubles that visit these characters, Eric is the oasis in the desert, a place to enjoy a break from the heat, and he's an oasis for characters and audiences alike. And in that calm, a simple truth can come from an unexpected place. A character like Eric is particularly necessary when Boy Meets World gets heavy, and the heaviest season was almost certainly season 6. When Sean and Jack's father, Chet, returns in the episode, "We'll have a good time then," he announces that this time he's staying for good.
From now on, there'll be lots and lots of time for us playing pool.
So you're really staying for good?
That's the plan, son.
Sean is skeptical that Chet is going to be around for the long haul, and in many ways sees himself in Chet's lack of commitment. Chet doesn't get the chance to prove himself, though, as he soon has a heart attack. Sean and Jack don't handle it particularly well.
Just trying to take care of things, man.
Yeah, well, I guess it's easy to be efficient when you're not feeling what I am.
Don't tell me how I'm feeling, okay? I'm his son, too.
Are you? When you were a little kid, did you sit next to him while he watched TV all night long, hoping that he'd say something to you? Did you ever once clean up after him when he came home drunk? And when he didn't come home at all, did you lay in bed thinking it was something you did that drove him away? And when he was gone, did you walk around and make believe that everything was okay when inside it was tearing you apart? Did you?
No, I didn't get to do any of those things.
You see, I knew I had a father, and he was gone from me my whole life.
Sean and Chet do get a moment to reconcile, though.
Why couldn't you just stick around? Wasn't I good enough for you?
No, Sean. Wasn't good enough for you. I need you, Dad.
But sadly, it's a little too late to make things right, as Chet has a second heart attack and passes away.
We lost him.
Nothing is really resolved in this episode, and in some ways that might be an incredibly realistic depiction of death. It doesn't solve problems or end a chapter. Even if people reconcile, there's no time to enjoy that peace. It's a sudden departure that comes too soon, no matter how late it may be. Feeling lost, Sean once again takes off on a journey to discover himself.
Listen, if you ever need anything, or you ever need my help, or... It's so hard to let him go.
What eventually brings Sean back 2 episodes later is the need to comfort his friend Corey during a difficult time. Before we begin, a quick content warning for anyone with a challenging pregnancy or infancy. You can skip ahead to the timestamp below. Amy Matthews revealed she was pregnant at the end of season 5, and in season 6, that pregnancy was coming to an early end. The baby was delivered early and is left in critical condition.
Doctor, his breathing is irregular.
What? No, it isn't.
Get him to ICU.
Wait, there's nothing wrong with him.
Is he gonna be okay? This is just a precaution.
Well, where are you taking him?
Neonatal ICU. You can follow the nurse there.
Alan, the intensive care.
The next episode pulls no punches with several trips to the infant intensive care unit, and it doesn't just highlight the struggle of the young Matthews baby. Alan speaks to and gets to know the other parents who are going through the same thing, including an uncredited cameo by series creator Michael Jacobs.
Michael, how's your son?
I think he smiled at me.
Hey, say one for my boy, will ya?
Oh, these are for all of us.
What I appreciate in this scene is how it acknowledges that many parents struggle with this reality every day. It isn't just a thing that the Matthews family come across one day to be conveniently forgotten about when the show moves on. The presence of the other families also carries with them in the awful suggestion that not all babies can make it. This is particularly clear in the revelation that, at least in this case, Joshua Matthews is going to make it.
Alan, what are you doing?
I'm saying a prayer for everybody that has to be in there.
Well, Joshua Gabriel.
Let's go home.
For all the difficulties the characters face in Boy Meets World, this one was probably the most grueling and difficult to watch, and it makes moments of levity even more of a relief.
My homework's gonna be unbelievably late this week.
Yeah, what else is new?
What these heavy episodes also reveal is the greater dynamic of the series and its approach to teaching its young audience about the world. It began with familiar, well-known things that were taught to the kids, moved on to things that were mysterious and a little uncertain, and then began moving towards the unexpected unknown, delving into subjects people never see coming, like the sudden early death of a parent or a child being born in critical condition. The stakes continuously go up in the series, revealing that the world is an increasingly challenging place, and it can throw anything at you, and you'll have to learn how to deal with it, and hopefully learn from the experience. The learning area isn't the safe space of the classroom anymore. Although Boy Meets World had gotten incredibly heavy in these later seasons, it wasn't just a series of unending traumas. One bright spot was the impending marriage of Corey and Topanga, albeit with a few more bumps along the way. By the end of the perpetually heavy season 6, we got to see the blossoming relationship between Mr. Feeney and Dean Bolender. Mr. Feeney having gone from fellow student at Pembroke University to one of the professors, because of course Corey and his friends need Mr. Feeney to teach them through every year of their education. Dean Bolender was also played by William Daniels' real-life wife, Bonnie Bartlett. Ahead of their marriage, Topanga finds out her parents are getting a divorce, leading Topanga to vow her own engagement. Season 7 opens with a two-parter where Corey tries to repair the relationship between Topanga's parents, only to realize that sometimes love does die. And while once again it may seem like this relationship is over, Corey and Topanga manage to reconcile when Topanga's mother tells her that even with the tragic end, love is still worth it.
What can I do to make it up to you?
You could move your knee.
Sorry. Wherever life takes us, I want it to be with you. Forever.
Of all the breakups Cory and Topanga went through, this one was perhaps the least believable, largely because they had already called things quits 3 times before, and the appearance of Lauren was a far more convincing threat than Topanga losing faith in love. With the relationship so obviously solid, a wedding was the only place this story could go, and go there it did, albeit with some resistance from the network. Michael Jacobs tells the story of how he convinced the network to let this happen. The head of ABC, when I told them we were going to marry them at 19, said it was a very irresponsible thing to do and that the audience didn't want it. And I said to him, listen, you have this thing called ABC.com. It was brand new. Why don't you run a graphic and find out how many people are waiting for Cory and Topanga to marry? And so he said, it's ridiculous. We'll get maybe 20,000 hits and that's it. And who can tell anything from that? And I said, why don't we try it? And in the first 7 minutes, they got about 280,000 hits, and then the thing broke. And out of the 280,000 hits, 280,000 people said, what do you think we're waiting for? I got a call from the president of the network the next day who said, could you please marry them in sweeps? The week before the wedding, there was a cute tie-in during the credits for that week's episode. Cory and Topanga spoke about a website set up to celebrate their upcoming nuptials. There's something very charming about how simple and quaint a website like this is. And finally, in an episode titled, It's About Time, we see Cory and Topanga married. Even though it's Cory and Topanga's wedding, the episode is actually about another important relationship, Cory and Sean.
As far as you and me go, today is the last day that we're ever gonna be Cory and Sean. You know, Sean and Cory.
The fight runs into the wedding.
We have to talk about it! I don't want to! We have to! Now? Cory, after you get married, things are gonna be different. And I don't have a lot of friends, you know? Do you really like her?
Yeah, I really do.
You sure?
John, I really think I've been very tolerant here.
Cory and Sean talk it out, and the wedding moves forward. It's very strange that this wedding episode is about the guys. It also highlights how important this friendship is to Cory and how a marriage would change that dynamic. They're still best friends, but it's not quite the same anymore. The Cory and Sean friendship can't really be understated, though it relies perhaps on a few too many gay jokes about them, clearly written before the writers knew what the internet did with that kind of bait. It's still nice to see a male relationship that's not just about broing down and watching the game together. Cory and Sean support each other emotionally through some of the toughest parts of their lives, and anyone would be lucky to have a friend like either one of them. And it's a simple yet true lesson. If you find a good friend who will stick with you during those tough times, hold on to them as best you can. It's one of the bittersweet moments of a wedding, knowing that this is the end of one era and the beginning of another. The series could have easily ended on this note, but it kept moving forward into a wider unknown, the life of a married couple. In The Honeymoon is Over, Cory and Topanga struggle to find housing. They realize they don't have a place to live, with Topanga's apartment and Cory's dorm conveniently occupied. They go to Alan and Amy for help.
Amy, they can't stay here. They're married now. It's Cory and Topanga, not Cory and us. Remember?
Ma?
You can't stay here, Cory.
It seems pretty harsh for Cory's parents not to offer any kind of assistance here, even a roof over their heads for a few days, especially when the alternative is for Cory and Topanga to live in the dorm for married couples, which looks like this. Why a university dorm is in shambles, I'm not entirely sure, but it clearly doesn't impress. So Cory goes back to his father to once again ask for help.
You decided that you were old enough to get married. You decided to take on the responsibility of a new life because you believed you could handle it. And this family supported that decision after we told you that it was going to be very difficult. What, did you think we were kidding?
I had many thoughts while watching this episode, but it would be unfair to discuss without quickly running down the next one, picket fences. The method to Alan's madness is explained in a later scene where Sean thinks the place is nice, just in need of some work to fix it up a bit.
Cory, you got a great place to start right here. Why don't you slow down for a second and take a look around you? You know? This is your place, man. Fix it up.
When Cory makes an effort to fix things up, he and Topanga gradually start to think they can turn this rundown apartment into a home. And a lesson is learned.
Topanga and I are going to paint our place, we're going to put up a bookshelf, and someday, when we can afford it, we are going to buy that house with a nook without your help. Now, what do you have to say to that?
I'd say you finally figured it out.
Welcome to being an adult.
When your mother and I got married, we had nothing. Nobody would help us. We did fine.
We didn't know it then, but it was the sweetest time in our lives.
We bonded together forever. We fell completely in love because we knew we made a life for ourselves with nobody's help but our own. I would never take that away from you, son.
These two episodes are ridiculous. In the first one, we find out what was fairly obvious throughout the series' run. Cory and Topanga are upper middle class.
We're upper middle class, homeless college students.
And this lesson makes it abundantly clear. The idea that suffering together through poverty is some kind of bonding ritual is unbelievably privileged. I want to look at how these episodes don't actually work. The first question we should be asking is, who's paying for this dorm? And who was paying for their previous dorm? Neither Cory nor Topanga seem to have jobs, though they would in a few episodes. They're also attending university, something I imagine they aren't paying for with whatever savings they have. So it sounds like their parents are still taking care of at least some of those expenses. For this story to be true to the message it's trying to present, Cory and Topanga would be moving to their own place and having to get jobs to pay for everything, including school, while attending. This is a very hefty burden to put on someone, and expecting them to fix up their rundown apartment on top of that? How is this episode not about the absurd financial demands of obtaining a higher education, or even just surviving in the modern world when you reach 20? Clearly, this real-world experience isn't entirely real. It seems more like a game for an upper-middle-class family to play at what it means to be poor, and this little exercise is supposed to build character. Except, there are people who live just the way Cory and Topanga would have to, working and going to school while trying to keep a crummy apartment from collapsing in on itself. And not because their parents want to teach them a lesson, it's because it's simply a fact of their life. They don't have the means of affording anything better. The biggest failure of this episode is to only fleetingly acknowledge that there are people in situations such as Cory and Topanga. Their neighbors are in rough spots, and they're at least depicted with some sensitivity, but we don't get much acknowledgement from Cory and Topanga of how there seems to be something wrong in a world where people are forced to live in rough conditions because society has made education a commodity easily purchased by the wealthy and only attainable through backbreaking effort for the poor. If Alan and Amy's grand lesson had been instead to teach their kids about the injustice in the world they had been sheltering them from, it would have made more sense. It would still be harsh, of course, but it would be wisdom worth having. The bonding exercise excuse seems like, at best, a rationalization, and the better lesson learned from this episode is the unspoken one. The 7th season was halfway through at this point, and while we'd see more of Cory and Topanga's married life, including their first fight, there is another couple that should be visited instead. Angela and Sean's relationship is, much like Cory and Topanga's, a turbulent one. Although unlike Cory and Topanga, their time apart is much longer. At the beginning of season 6, Angela and Sean break up, and manage to stay broken up for the rest of the season, in spite of the fact that they clearly still have feelings for one another, and in spite of the efforts of Cory and Topanga to get them back together.
Angela, I told Sean that you still love him, and I know Topanga was telling you that Sean still loves you.
What?
You didn't tell her anything, did you?
No, I didn't.
Well, I'm thinking now's a good time.
The relationship between Sean and Angela is in direct contrast to Cory and Topanga. Even Sean himself notices that.
I'm never gonna have a relationship like you guys. I'm not normal.
Well, Sean, we're not normal.
Cory and Topanga are nice enough to point out that their romance is abnormal, but it's clearly affected how Sean views relationships. In a way, this puts the audience in Sean's shoes, seeing this ideal couple in Cory and Topanga and wanting to live that themselves, but coming up short. It isn't until season 7 that Sean and Angela reconcile, bonding over having both been abandoned by their parents, and the fear of growing up to be just like them, running out on someone.
I love you. So much. I just don't want to hurt you anymore.
I love you too.
The relationship offers a nice lesson that it would only succeed if Angela and Sean were able to relate to one another directly and not trying to live up to the expectations or example of their friends. The relationship is also notable for being a very rare interracial pairing on 90s television, although the topic is never addressed in the show directly, and Angela's race is rarely mentioned at all. It was a deliberate choice by the show's creators. During an interview, writer Strong described the casting for Angela as exclusively looking for Black or Latina actresses. The pairing was meant to be the colorblind ideal where the race of the two characters was entirely arbitrary. This was something that Trina McGee appreciated, so much so that she wrote an op-ed in the Los Angeles Times describing how she thought the relationship provided a positive example. Here's an excerpt from that op-ed. I get lots of positive reactions from both black and white teenagers wanting to know when Sean and I are getting back together. The black kids are not asking, "Why are you with that white boy?" When I attended the NAACP Image Awards, a black girl lamented to me that Sean and Angela are a perfect couple and should be back together. The next day, a white girl in a mall begged to know if Sean and Angela are still in love. One was 9, one preteen. They are the new face of tolerance. These kids are not looking at race. They're absorbing the love story. To this day, Trina McGee still talks fondly about her experience on the show and how she didn't really face many negative responses. I think it's important to acknowledge that her op-ed was in response to outcry over a scene in the series Ally McBeal where Callista Flockhart and Jesse L. Martin exchange a kiss, and that the series never broaches the topic of race, a criticism never directed at Boy Meets World. Part of that might be because the profile of Ally McBeal was higher, but it also may be that Boy Meets World's younger audience wasn't expected to deal with a topic such as race, and the fact that they weren't bothered by Angela and Sean, at least in Trina McGee's experience, speaks to the fact of how racism is a learned behavior, that kids aren't really born with this prejudice in their mind, but learn it through the examples around them. And from that perspective, Angela and Sean offer a positive example of an interracial relationship. But does that represent reality? A reality that a younger audience needs to learn about? Those are big questions I'm not sure this video can really tackle, aside from acknowledging that interracial relationships have faced a lot of social pressure and continue to do so today. I don't think a show is weaker for not reflecting reality though, it's just taking a different approach to tackle the same problem. I can't cover every single topic that comes up in one of these shows, so thankfully I have a little help this time.
Hey, T1J here. Just like Jose, I'm a huge fan of sitcoms, and I have a lot of nostalgic fondness for Boy Meets World in particular. So I actually also made a video about the show, except my video is focused around the roller coaster relationship between Sean and Angela, which is maybe my favorite sitcom couple story of all time, for various reasons, which you'll have to watch my video to learn. Come check it out when you're done with Jose's video.
Sadly for Sean and Angela, the reunion only lasted until the end of season 7, as a few episodes before the finale, we see Angela leave for Europe to spend some time reconnecting with her father.
Let's not say goodbye. Let's just say, I love you.
I always will.
The episode also revealed another departure might be happening soon, with Topanga getting an offer from NYU.
Corey, we have to move to New York.
Don't spin out of control.
Why didn't no one tell me? Why didn't no one...
And that brings us to the 2-part series finale, Brave New World. There isn't too much in the way of plot, as these episodes offer more a chance for the characters to reflect on how their lives have brought them to this point, complete with a number of clips from throughout the show's 7 seasons. Topanga briefly considers not going to New York, but instead is convinced to go after some words of wisdom from Mr. Feeney and some encouragement from Corey.
Well, I want to go to New York.
No, you don't.
I do. I need room to grow, Topanga, and I don't think it's fair that you're keeping me from growing.
You would do this for me?
Topanga, I'd do anything for you.
Eric decides to go along with Corey and Topanga to New York City.
I feel this is the right move for me. You know, New York City. Nobody knows me there. I can be anybody I want to be.
I want you to be Eric.
Sean and Corey are in the midst of saying goodbye when Topanga reveals Sean is apparently going with them too.
This is...
Goodbye.
Oh, that's it. I can't take this anymore. Here, this is for you.
What's that?
His stuff.
You're coming with us?
I'm going with you? Really?
Jack and Rachel decide to go in the Peace Corps together, with Jack giving up his stepfather's money.
Save me a seat on that boat next to you. I can't believe I just did that. Money doesn't make you rich. Life makes you rich. Our father taught us that.
And Corey has a moment with his new brother Joshua, who seems to have aged pretty quickly in the last season.
Even though it'll seem like the world's going out of its way to teach you these hard lessons, you're going to realize that, you know, it's the same world that's giving you your family and your friends, you know? And you're going to come to believe that the world's going to protect you too. Boy Meets World.
Now I get it.
And everyone says goodbye, with Corey, Sean, Topanga, and Eric going back to Mr. Feeney's class for one last lesson.
Believe in yourselves. Dream. Try. Do good.
Don't you mean do well?
No, I mean do good.
And the final line of the series is,
I love you all. Class dismissed.
The series ends hitting the themes that ran through it, that those formative years are called that for a reason, and those early relationships you forge can sit with you for a lifetime. Childhood isn't something to be frivolously forgotten as you age, but something to be cherished and remembered as you grow older. It's when the world begins to imprint itself on you, shaping your beliefs and relationships for the rest of your life. In an interview, Michael Jacobs described it, "What I think launched a sustained run for Boy was an incredible evolution of what you knew, thought you know, to what you never really knew at all." And this final episode highlights that journey, from the world of the first season where the lessons and stories are simple, to the more turbulent high school seasons where the world of the characters is turned upside down, and then finally in the college years, it's a whole new space where you realize how much more of the world there is to know. The overarching story does reveal that this sitcom is coming from a very specific perspective, one of the comfortable life of an upper middle class family. Corey's life is challenging, but it doesn't feature hardships that outsky the scope of a typical journey to adolescence. That might be why the series doesn't feel dated, since the only troubles it tackles are the ones kids have been facing for a long time and will continue to face into the future. This show is ultimately about finding a place in the world, changing it where you can, but still trusting that it is a place for you. But the story of the Matthews family wasn't over here. We get a glimpse of Corey and Topanga in New York, 14 years later, in a Boy Meets World spin-off. After Boy Meets World went off the air, it moved into syndication, and while most shows have a few years there before fading away, something strange happened. Boy Meets World did very well on the Disney Channel. So well that the show's profile actually went up, with its old audience returning to it, and a new audience discovering it for the first time. The growing popularity led to the possibility of a reboot, and after much urging from Disney, Michael Jacobs would return to these characters in 2014 with Girl Meets World, starring Rowan Blanchard as Riley Matthews, Corey and Topanga's daughter, and Sabrina Carpenter, her best friend Maya Hart. The series is set in New York City and tells the story of a girl meeting the world. Only the Mr. Feeney role this time is played by Corey Matthews. In addition to telling the stories of Riley and Maya and their group of friends, the series also featured a number of cameos of Boy Meets World favorites, tying up several loose ends and offering a few moments of closure. Although the series stands well enough on its own, it's definitely enhanced by having watched Boy Meets World. Episode 16 in the first season, Girl Meets Home for the Holidays, is a particularly great episode, as it features the return of Sean Hunter.
Gee, Cor, thought you'd be more excited to see me.
What makes this episode work so well is how it builds on the original series, with wayward Sean constantly looking for a home and integrates him into the story of Maya, who's struggling to find a place for herself. And it speaks to the show's theme of how people change people, how Corey changed Sean, Riley changed Maya, and how Sean and Maya can change one another. The series ran for 3 seasons on the Disney Channel, totaling 72 episodes, before being cancelled in 2017. The cancellation of the series was a bit surprising, as its ratings had only slightly dipped over 3 seasons, and Michael Jacobs had fought to keep the show on the air, whether at Disney or somewhere else. But it had a solid send-off, and while it might not have been as consistent as Boy Meets World, Girl Meets World's highest points might have been a few notches higher. After finishing Boy Meets World, Ben Savage would go to Stanford, where he majored in political science. After completing his education, he returned to the world of entertainment, acting and directing in a number of different projects. He's also been cast to play younger versions of Mandy Patinkin on 2 different shows, which I think is a fun fact. Ryder Strong also took some time off from acting after Boy Meets World to attend Columbia University, though he did take a semester off to appear in the movie Cabin Fever. More recently, he's done less acting as he's instead chosen to focus on writing and directing. Danielle Fishel went on to appear in a number of movies and worked as a TV presenter following the end of Boy Meets World. Eventually, she decided to go back to school, attending California State University Fullerton, attaining a degree in psychology. More recently, she has been working as a director. Will Friedle landed another major role while working on Boy Meets World, becoming the voice of Terry McGinnis in the animated series Batman Beyond. In a strange coincidence, that series finished its last recording on the same day that Boy Meets World wrapped filming. Since then, though, Friedle has become a prolific voice actor, appearing in numerous series, from Kim Possible to a slew of other TV shows and video games. In his personal life, he's also learned to manage anxiety issues that affected him during and after the end of Boy Meets World, and happily, he now seems to be in a much better place in his life. Betsy Randall took some time off from acting a few years after the end of Boy Meets World, but she has been working continuously since returning in 2014. She's most recently appeared in the movie Painter, and in 2013, she celebrated the birth of her first grandchild. William Russ has been acting consistently since the end of Boy Meets World, appearing in countless TV shows and movies. Most notably, he appeared in Deadwood as Otis Russell. He also has the unique distinction of being the only actor to direct episodes of Boy Meets World and Girl Meets World. Trina McGee continued to act following the end of Boy Meets World, appearing in movies and television, including movies Friday After Next and the excellently titled movie The Booty Shop. Most recently, she wrote and directed the film Detainment. Matthew Lawrence continued to act in movies and television after finishing up on Boy Meets World. He's done less acting over the years, but he has continued singing on occasion, having been a singer since his childhood. He recently performed in the 2021 movie Mistletoe Mix-Up, singing alongside his brothers Joey and Andrew. After Boy Meets World, Maitland Ward continued to act for a few years, notably appearing in the movie White Chicks. Over the years, she has moved away from the mainstream acting world, and in 2019, she began working in adult films. She seems to be quite happy in her new field and is enjoying exploring this new career path. Even after such a long and prolific career, William Daniels continued to act in a number of roles following the end of Boy Meets World, including a recent reprisal as the car Kit from Knight Rider in the 2020 movie Superintelligence. Daniels has become more selective with his projects in recent years, and at 95 years of age, he's mostly taking life easy these days. He is still married to his wife of 70 years, Bonnie Bartlett, and they are still adorable together. While researching this video, I watched over a dozen different panels at fan conventions where the cast shared memories of working on the series, and what was particularly surprising was how many of these panels were in the last 5 years. And while there are always Girl Meets World fans who found the show later in life, there are also a number of older fans who fondly remember it from their childhood, talking about how comforting it was to watch these characters who remind them of the more carefree days of the 90s. These are the childhood memories of when everything was going to turn out all right if we just followed the rules. And we did, yet here we are. Things aren't all right at all. The world and television in general has become a more cynical place in the 22 years since the last episode of Boy Meets World aired, and I don't think there's any shame in watching a few episodes of a TV series that carried some optimism and hope about how in this big scary world, there was still a place for you. It's comfort without being completely overwhelmed by fantasy. Boy Meets World isn't blind to the suffering of the world and goes out of its way to explore these topics, but it can never escape the family-friendly TGIF dynamic it was born into. And while that doesn't make it a bad show, I think it's important to acknowledge its perspective. That comfort, with a dose of reality, might be the key to its longevity. It saw the world, at least part of it, as something flawed, yet held out some hope that it could be made better, which is why the series ended with a final lesson from Mr. Feeney to dream, try, and do good. With the safe lesson of Boy Meets World over, offering a hint of the trials ahead of us, the lesson is not to wish for the fantasies it presented or cynically sneer at its limited scope, but to instead take to heart the idea that we make the most of the only world we've got, and hopefully the next generation will be making a better one. When I first started doing these retrospectives, Boy Meets World was one of the first shows I saw requested. I remember thinking to myself, probably not likely. I was never a huge fan. I don't know if I necessarily want to revisit that one. But over time, the requests kept coming, and eventually I was worn down, and I was happily surprised. It held up pretty well, and while it doesn't resonate as strongly as it probably does for the more die-hard Boy Meets World fans out there who might be watching this, I hope you still enjoyed this trip down memory lane and this revisiting of a beloved series. This video would not have been possible without the lovely names you see floating up the screen here. These are my lovely patrons and members. If you would like to join them and help make videos like this possible, you can join my Patreon below, and that will give you early access to videos, your name in the credits of course, and download links to my theme songs. I might even take the opportunity to answer a few questions from patrons in these closing credits of a video. If you'd like to support this channel in a non-monetary fashion, you can like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications, which I've been told really helps. Thank you all so much for watching.